typically when you're on the road with someone, if you get along, like whenever I got along with a bass player and we're doing a number of cities, we'd get together in the hotel room and I'd be on one bed, they'd be on the other bed with our basses not plugged in, and we would just do finger exercise. Check this out, because you make up these strange things that are hard to play, and then they get easier to play, and it kind of helps you, you know. And
Right.
so I'm like, well, here's this, and oh, that's cool. Check this out. And so we trade licks with each other and stuff, and and that was cool. But I remember going up. We get on stage, packed house, and we start. I even remember it was called "Wet Teenager." We started with that song, and I happened to look up and remember the jumbotrons. My face was on the whole jumbotron. I remember
Wow.
it freaked me out. I was like, "What am I supposed to do?" I never had not thought about this. Am I supposed to look at it? It was like, what? It's me. It's Joe from Steubenville. What? I'm on the jumbotron in DC. There's something weird about this. Uh, but and then they gave us the hotel. I think it was in Erie. We did at the Erie Field House some gigs, and Frank would just drink coffee, but they would always close the Holiday Inn or wherever it was. They would close down the bar and let us have the bar.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
remember, yeah, and I remember Frank came in one day with a cup of coffee, and he sat at the bar, and there was this young girl, and she was waiting on all of us. She was real nice, and I got three sisters. I remember him starting to make some strange comments to
When
her.
didn't he?
Yeah, and then he actually put her up on the bar, and she was sitting there, and he was like doing something, and I just remember thinking like, this is not cool. If this was one of my sisters, like, I would not like this. And I remember walking up and standing between him and her. I just walked up, and now I'm standing there thinking, and are you actually going to get into a fist fight with Frank Zappa? What the heck are you doing? Right? I don't know. I was
That
trying to
would have
be
been a
so,
story.
yeah, you know it. I don't think he was, but I think I did kind of disrupt whatever was going on or something. I don't know, but and I'm sure he was genius, nicest guy in the world, but he was kind of off by himself all the time,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know he would, from what I've read, he kind of went off on his own when he wanted to create. But
yeah,
man, if he needed a certain sound, and it doesn't matter how long you've been in the band, if somebody else could give him the sound he was looking for, you were out and the next guy was in.
and you had to read it. You had to read
Hmm.
all of that. When we first got to New York, it was like, so we have a per diem. We started doing sessions, became a session player, and it was like at that point, my sight reading had to be really good,
Hmm.
and in bands, you're not sight reading, you know what I mean? Zappa was an oddity in that area, it's like those guys played everything that he wrote.
Yeah, that
I
nobody
mean,
I
all the
think ever
drum
got.
parts, everything,
Nobody
right?
got as complex as he did.
No, he was
Nobody.
just a monster,
I
but
mean,
yeah, just all of those experiences, I wouldn't trade them for anything, you know.
blame you.
I mean, it was
Blame you.
it was just like it's me. What am I doing here? I don't. So when I tell stories like that on Facebook, like one time I told a story about the bit spending the evening with Billy Joel. It was like
Hmm.
people are like, "You need to write a book, man. You need."
You should.
I don't have enough time. Well, so what I'm gonna do is I started doing blogs on my joemacre.com, my website, and I'm like typing on this, and I figured, you know what? I'm just going to do it on Zoom, just me talking into the camera, tell the story, and if it needs to be transcribed someday, and I could put a collection of these stories and make a book of it, that's great. But just to sit down, do the outline of the book, I started one, and it was like a novel about a guy in the music business, and it was really about Crack the Sky. And then I thought, you know what, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. So I got those stories, those letters from my dad writing from a foxhole in Germany back to his parents here in Steubenville, Ohio, and the penmanship was perfect. He's in a foxhole with bombs going. The penmanship was a statement in itself.
See, that should be your first book.
Yeah, but I went through these letters and it was like, dear mother and father, and he painted this rosy picture all the time, like everything's fine. You know, you've seen Saving Private Ryan. They had 3 brothers in the war at the same time. My dad had 5 brothers, so there were 6 Macre brothers, and there were 4 in the war at the same time. So when we watched Private Ryan, I got to see it with my son and my dad, and they were saying, Private Ryan, first 20 minutes, if they were in the war, don't let them see the first 20 minutes. It could be really bad, this and that and the other thing. He explained everything that was going on to me. And that's when I realized when he made it up the beach to the mountain, they were stuffing dynamite in those tubes so they get up to the pillboxes, and they threw those ladders up there with a latch on. As those guys were going up the ladder, they were just shooting them, bang, bang, bang. But there were so many coming up, they just kept coming till they couldn't get them all. Finally, they got up there, and my dad said the pillboxes were full of Italians. All right, so I grew up speaking Italian. That was our main language.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so my dad was real fluent, right? And so when they found out he was Italian, he said, these Italians did not want to be in these pillboxes. They didn't want to have anything to do with the war. They were all coming out, and people going, Mac, come here, you know, so he could actually translate. He could talk to them. And he said, when they came out of those pillboxes, they were so drunk that they didn't know where they were. He said, because they were drinking pure grain alcohol. And he said, we took that alcohol, we put it in our sternos, in our lighters, and they filled their stuff up. And I said, did you drink any? And his answer was this: I had 1 sip. I did this, and it's still there to this day. That grain alcohol. Right? Oh, no. So, yeah, but you know, like we were talking earlier, it's just a different time, man. Yeah. Well, it's like our local high school, they are real big on trades, right? And they're building this big trade center so that, you know, you don't have to go to college to become a welder, or, you know, just different trades. And so in Texas, I taught Pro Tools, right? And I mean, we had, you know, school in San Diego, Austin, Houston, Dallas, and I would travel to those areas and fill in for people and do different stuff. And it hit me the other day, you know, my whole goal is to give back. That's why I teach guitar and bass and stuff. And I haven't been teaching Pro Tools. So I you know, I called them and said, you know, you guys are doing this thing, teaching these kids trades. I'd like to be part of that. Well, you know, what do you do, and this and that, and I told them what I did, and it was like, wow, that's interesting. I'm like, if I teach you how to run Pro Tools like I did in Texas, after 13 weeks, 1 semester, all of my students had recording studios in their house. You start out small. Because what you don't understand is everybody wants to sing, or at least find out if they can sing. They want to play their instrument, they want to record. Rappers all want to rap, singers all want to sing, and you'd be surprised how many of your friends are into that. So they open up a little studio, get some Pro Tools, charge $25 an hour. Now they're busy 8 hours a day, right? And they're making money. And so I stopped doing that in 2012. My students now, I have some that are with like famous people that have moved to Sacramento to be part of that camp, and they're the engineers and stuff. And in this town, no one has really done that, right? And so the guy said, I'm gonna have to run this up the chain. I can't explain it like you can. Is there any way that you could like figure out a way to do that? So I made a DVD for him. And, you know, I have Pro Tools and I share the screen with it. And so, okay, so here's what we're doing. And this is what I teach. And this software does this. And, you know, I've worked on the Walker, Texas Rangers show for the whole run of the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was in Dallas, so I was the ADR director in Dallas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Chuck and they would all come in every week. And one day Chuck said to me, "Where are you from, Joe?" And I said, "You never heard of it, Steubenville, Ohio." And he went, "What was the guy's name?" It's like this super Italian name. He went, "Do you know Benny? Oh God, I can't remember his last name." And I went, "Yeah, from Steubenville." He said, "I was his best man in Steubenville, and I wore my tux with my Chuck Taylor tennis shoes."
Oh, wow.
And we went to DeCarlo's Pizza. That's our family's pizza thing.
No
And
way.
we had that pizza, and I was like, "Oh my God." He would stand there. Then my next session was coming up. He would keep talking to me while I'm setting up and stuff like that. Eventually, I would have to get to the point where I'd say like, "Hey Chuck, man, I gotta do. Oh, okay, it's cool, man. I'll see you next week." And stuff. And Noble, who was the CD guy, he was the old Texas Ranger, right? He was the old guy. He had a boy that drove him around in his limousine, right? And you're like, Noble was his name. Noble's out in the parking lot. I'd always go out in the parking lot and meet him at his car and walk in with him, right? And he said, "What? You know, the Republican Party just talking to me. They want me to run for Congress down here." And I said, "Well, maybe you should do it." And he said, "I told them if they buy me a helicopter, I'll do it." He wanted a helicopter. Everybody started getting on Chuck. There was like this Chuck Norris humor thing and stuff like that. And I still see it on Facebook. And I'll say, "I've never worked with anyone as nice as Chuck Norris." And he was into that, the Eagles drummer.
Clint Fry?
No, the drummer, Don
Clint,
Henley.
oh, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, Don Henley. I don't know why I said
Okay,
Clint
so
Fry.
Don Henley is in that Dallas
Yeah, he's from
opera
Dallas.
Well, he married a debutante too. Okay, so he's up there, and Chuck's up there, and this and that and the other thing. So I started, you know, just from talking to Chuck, started getting like information about this upper class, you know, of people and stuff. And then I met Erica Badu. You know who that is?
Yeah, yeah, she's a
Okay.
singer, right?
Yeah, and she started the whole neo soul thing pretty much, right?
Yeah, she can
And
sing.
yeah, man. And you know, the thing, I did a Robin Williams film with her.
Wow.
I did worked on Fire Down Below, Steven Seagal. Like I got to do all these films. Oh, Mother-in-Law, the movie Mother-in-Law.
Oh, yeah.
They took the Safety in Numbers thing that Ricky and I wrote that song, and they put DJ Lethal produced it in England and got a girl to sing it. I forget her name. Ellie Lawson is her name. And so it's the thing when they're driving up to, I don't know if you saw Monster-in-Law, but they're driving up to Jane Fonda's party.
I
And Jane
remember, but I
Fonda
didn't
has
watch
told
it.
them that this was going to be casual.
Mm-hmm.
It's a black tie affair. She did it just so her son would not like J-Lo anymore. Right? And as they're driving up to the thing, our song's playing. Safety in Numbers is playing and stuff, you know. So I had all kind of like little like stuff. I had Faith Hill hold one of my songs for 2 weeks, which was when she became famous, was when she did that Soda Shop video.
Okay.
It was like her first album. The next album they were saying is going to sell 7 million records, right? So I used to write a bunch of country songs. So, and I had a plugger in Nashville that would shop them. And I get this call one day, and it's from Faith Hill's people. And they're like, "Hi, Joe. Listen, we heard the song American Boys, and we really like it. And now we're just holding it at this point, but I just wanted to let you know that we're holding it, and we really like it, and this and everything." For 2 weeks, I'm thinking, like, if I get on that, that's $1 million right now. Just one song at 50% publishing is going to get me $1 million. A couple of weeks later, they called back and said, "Listen, it's a little too young for her." And I knew that was my fear, that it was just a little too young, because I wrote it for these 2 girls from Birmingham that I was producing in Dallas. And they said, "We're not going to use it on this album, but we like the way you write, and just send us anything directly here," right? I never sent him anything after that, because I was just doing too many other things and stuff. But, I think about it, when something like that happens, you think, I'm not as bad as I think I am. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of in the running here and stuff like that. I always had those little opportunities. I had Jessica Simpson became real big, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I knew her vocal teacher, right? So her vocal teacher is really, really, really good. And she called Tommy Mottola at CBS and said, "You need to come to Dallas and hear this girl sing." That's how Jessica got her deal. So they get her dad comes in, and they're all kind of Hollywooded up at this point, and gives me a tape that Ashley Simpson had done with Sugar Ray producing it.
Oh, wow.
Remember Sugar Ray?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I don't know anything about Sugar Ray or anything, but all I know is when I heard that tape, I was like, this is some of the worst stuff that I've heard.
Oh, no.
It was. And so what I did was I hired their brother and taught him how to be an engineer. And it was good, because we had solid state logic. We had really expensive gear and stuff like that. And, I kind of bowed out of the whole thing, because it's a long story. I don't want to get into it. But yeah, there was always these kind of people, like, and that was the cool thing about living in, like, Dallas. Like Andy Timmons, you know who Andy Timmons is?
Yes.
Okay, Andy. So I composed lots of commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Well, commercials pay a lot, so I was able to have Andy be my guitar player. So
Oh, wow.
I have a session, so I call Andy for everything, and he'd come in and go like, "Well, what are we doing today?" And be like, "Harrison." Before I could even set the console up, he had his bottleneck out, and it sounded exactly like Harrison playing slide, right?
Oh, wow.
So I got to, work with people like that. Erica's one day, so when I'm doing the Robin Williams film with her, and she has to sing this song, "Crossroads, will you ever let him go? No. Will you hide the dead man's butt?" Osmond Brothers,
Mm-hmm.
Sweet Melissa.
Yep. Love that song.
Singing the song, and I stopped. I stopped the tape, and I said, do you know this song? Do you know anything about this song? And she said, "No." And I walked out, and had a guitar in the studio, and I picked up the guitar, and she said, "Oh, you're a musician too?" And I said, "Yeah." And I explained to her what the song was, just about the band and Dwayne dying, and Sweet Melissa, and this was like his backdoor girl, whatever, and and I sang the song for her, and I played it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she did it and all that, and then she came out and she said, "Would you do something for me?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Could you make me a couple tracks?" I said, "I'd love to." And she said, "No, you can't tell anybody this, but I'm going to do this one for Yoko, and it's Oh Yoko. And I want to do that for her, and give it to her. And I was like, I'll do it. So I started working on it, and all the lyrics, like when I'm shaving, I call your name. It like didn't fit, right? So I did Across the Universe in a neo soul bag. And I loved it. I was thinking, this is what she needs to do, because the Beatle fans will love her. This will put her right down the mainstream, man. This is perfect. So I got that done. I didn't tell her, and I called her, right? I called her on her cell phone, and I said, Eric, I got your tracks ready. You want to come down and hear them? And she went, oh, darling, I'm in the middle of labor. She was having a baby.
Oh, no.
So then I ended up working with her producer, Madukwa Chinwa. And man, you talk about some soul. Like he was super good. And he's still a friend of mine on Facebook, and he's really good. He does all kind of cool stuff, plays every instrument and stuff like that. But you know, it's like just being in that kind of metroplex, like you just have the opportunity to meet so many people, man. What when they thought that I had a kidney stone back in 2010. So he goes in and he does this exploratory thing, and he comes out and says, yeah, you do have a kidney stone. It's big and it's hanging right on there. And I never had a kidney stone before. He said, but you also have stage 4 cancer, bladder cancer. And I was like, what? Next thing out of his mouth was, how long did you smoke? He didn't say, were you a smoker? He said, how long did you smoke? And I said, 13 years. He says, that's why you got it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So, you know, it's like, but see, John Palumbo, my friend, I think he just quit, but he has smoked his whole life. Never got cancer. You know, so there's genes involved, and there's, you know, all that stuff.
40 some odd years of doing this.
Yeah. So, you know, you're in the clear.
But, you know, I don't drink, and I don't do drugs anymore. So if this is my worst habit, my wife puts up with it.
You're in a good spot, man. Like, I would love to be doing what you're doing. You know, listen
I
to
feel
music
blessed.
and
Hey, sometimes I get stuff that hasn't been released yet, and I get to sit here and listen to it. I mean, how many people can say they do that? I mean, I know there's folks out there who do, but there's not a lot. But thank you, and everyone out there, if especially those who are my regulars. It's because of you I get to do this. And if you happen by here, this is your first time, I hope you enjoyed it and you'll come back. So please hit the subscribe button. And I have to say, please, even though I say it every time, you take care and be kind to one another.
Amen.
God bless you. And peace.
Back at you, brother.
And Joe, anything you want to say in parting here?
No, just listen to the Kyle Yates show. And is that what it's called?
This one is called Listen to the Vibes, but the channel is called The Vibes Broadcast.
Listen to the Vibes Broadcast. I'm going to be listening, so you need to listen too. Joe Macre out.